the recording.
Okay, already started, Professor.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are here to tell you more about this year's Atom AIS Analytics Competition, which is an event that is now on the third edition. We are a student chapter, the AIS at FIU, that I'll ask Eduardo to tell you more about it. I see a couple of my students here joining too. Is always kind of pushing the boundaries of what you get out of your educational experience at FIU. And this event is actually part of that because it allows you to go beyond the classroom context to kind of bring your skills and put them to use to solve a real problem, to address some real questions, and to kind of really bring everything together to a very specific end. So that's a great way of experiential learning opportunity to really learn and kind of see what's the use of all the stuff you learn in your classes. So I've seen many students really make a lot of progress because we've even had some sophomores, joining a couple years back the competitions, and you see them after that experience, they come growing so much. And let's see, now this is actually, we used to host every week some sessions on campus to help students working on that. We get some faculty that are willing to volunteer their time to mentor the students competing. So it's really a great opportunity for you guys, and I hope that you can take advantage of that. So this year, actually, Nicole just responded. She's going to be joining right now. She is my colleague, and we work on this together. I'd like actually to start by introducing also Professor Edward Duran. He is also joining us in the committee, organizing committee for this competition. He's one of our professors in information systems. Edward, do you want to say a few words to welcome our students?
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to join you all here today. I'm very excited to see what you all, come up with. We got some exciting topics this year, and I think that we were talking about this before we started, so I can tell that there's some excitement in the room, and I'm really looking forward to see some exploratory data analysis, to see what type of joins you all create, to see how you all can analyze how maybe COVID has impacted certain industries. So again, thank you for having me. Really looking forward to supporting you all in any way I can.
Okay, thank you so much. So here I'm actually posting the link if you haven't seen yet. This is a page that FIU has dedicated to the competitions that we host. And to give you a little background, these competitions actually came as a result of our involvement in the national level event, which is the Association for Information Systems at FIU. FIU has a student chapter of that organization and is dedicated to students in information systems and analytics. So we participate in that event. We've been actually placing among the first places for several years now. You see here some of our students that actually have participated. Our role there brings a lot of visibility to our department and the work that we do, because students kind of work in solving these problems. They compete with other teams at the national level. This year, because of the COVID situation, they don't have a national event on analytics. And so we decided to still go ahead and have our competition so that our students had a chance to, to practice their skills. So you'll see that when you actually join, is Dr. Wisha already here? So I'd like to introduce her if she's joining.
Yes, I'm here, Gladys.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna let her go ahead, but just to give you really a big encouragement to really pursue this opportunity, because you really get a lot from it, and you get a lot of exposure to industry as well. Dr. Wisha is the director of the Atom think tank, and I'm gonna let her say a few words too.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about joining a few minutes late. Yes, so we're very excited about this, as you've probably already heard, and we're really looking forward to you guys doing a great job with this. But most of all, we want you to enjoy it and look upon it as an opportunity to apply your analytical skills and showcase yourself. So we want you to enjoy this process and excel and shine and look good and make us look good. and get some recognition and the opportunity to win the scholarship money as well, for those who make the first place or second place. So we encourage you to put a lot of effort into it, and just really, as I said, pull together your skills that you've been learning, maybe stretch yourself a little bit beyond what you've done in the classroom, and showcase yourself when you get up there to present. If you make it to the finals, there will be companies that will be judging this, or sponsors. And in the past, a lot of the competitors have gotten internships out of this process. And that's, I think a lot of you could take advantage of those types of opportunities. So I'm not sure how we're going to be proceeding.
Yeah, I think at this point we can go ahead and start digging into what the challenge is about this year. So right here we have for this year 4 different topics. So you are able to choose among them. For those of you who are in my class, you've been helping me with the collection of the data collection stage of the first option. And this is actually part of another initiative that we've been working with, which has to do with the impact of COVID in the South Florida workforce. So that's option number 1. And then the data, if you completed the survey, you're familiar with. If you didn't complete the survey, I'm gonna actually ask Dr. Wisha to post the link so that we can have a few extra responses. We have like around 600 at this time already that we've been collecting. And then this is for all of the questions in each topic, you'll get some specific questions that you need to address and do the data analysis in order to support your conclusions, your recommendations, and address the questions at hand. You're also encouraged to go beyond the data that you get here to kind of get some other sources that can inform your decisions, your choices of recommendations that you're making, etc. Right? So that's why it is really the value of this, because that's what happens in the real world with real problems. We have data, but then also we have to analyze the context and get some additional data that can inform our decisions and enhance our recommendations. So in the case of the COVID data, and I posted the link on the chat so you guys can be following along to read this prompt. So this is really has 2 aspects to it. One is to identify the issues that emerge from the data that we've collected. So the data that we've collected has different questions, and so you have to kind of analyze that, see what patterns, what relationships you can identify from there, and see compare in specific what is the difference between the issues that women are reporting versus their male counterparts, because this research is actually part of an initiative that we've been working with for this year. And the idea and the angle was to kind of see women issues in particular, since this is being called a she session because the pandemic has hit women the hardest. And then the second aspect to it, after you analyze the data, is to come up with some recommendations for some practices that can help address the issues, the challenges, mitigate the impact that this is having on the workforce in general and women in particular, and some recommendations that, so this is where a lot of times I've seen companies enjoy seeing students present, because you guys come with new, fresh, innovative ideas. So they love really getting that out of you to kind of say how can organizations really deal with this, what can they do to reinvent themselves and thrive in this environment post-COVID. So that's going to be really the differentiator between all the submissions, because even though you may all have the same data, what you do with the data and what other sources you consult to enhance your recommendations, that's going to be different. So the data sets are here. We may actually be uploading a latest latest update to this after this weekend when we're closing the survey. And we also list a few other data sets that you can use that are relevant to this, to the topics, to the workforce or employment data that you can rely on as well. And there is also a few articles that you can use where the issue has been discussed and researched from other angles, from other experts, from, as you see here, from McKinsey and Company, etc. So that's about this one. Dr. Wisha, would you like to add something about this particular data set?
No, I think you just did an incredible job explaining it. So I really have nothing to add to that. That's
okay. So you can either maybe request control of this one or just share your screen. If you already have that one, I can stop sharing mine if you want to take the next challenge and discuss it.
well, I think Edward.
Oh, yes,
Edward, yeah.
option 2 for Edward. So do I stop my sharing, Edward? You have it ready?
Yeah, it doesn't let me stop
Okay.
your sharing. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll do it now.
Perfect.
So let me get it to option 2.
I think we're going to present them all, and you guys at the end can ask questions about any specific one of the challenges. That's the way we're going to do it.
So I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat to this one directly. It's accessible from the link that Dr. Simpson had shared before. But all right, so without further ado, this challenge here is all about esports and gaming, and oftentimes you'll find these two being used in in similar contexts. In the last year, during this pandemic, there has been explosive growth in the popularity of the video game industry, and we've seen a a surge also in popularity with competitive organized video gaming. A lot of us were stuck at home. A lot of us we're wondering, what is it that we do with all this time that we have at home? And platforms like Twitch, platforms like Steam have experienced a surge in user growth. So the analytical goals, there's a couple of different data sets that are available for this particular analysis activity. And these data sets are all from popular video game services, Steam being a major library for video game sales, where you could log in, you can access your games, you could buy new games, you could chat with your friends. So there's an individual who did some web scraping on steamcharts.com who posted a data set to Kaggle that's actually pretty recent. It looks like this one gets updated every so often, 23 days ago. So it's pretty current as far as the games that are available. And it's got a lot of records on it. So there's a lot of data there. And what you can do with this is you can see, maybe certain game genres have become more popular over time. Maybe genres that are more conducive to multiplayer games where people want to play with each other. Maybe that's become more popular. There's also another data set for esports earnings. So there are folks who get paid a hefty amount of money to be able to play video games in a competitive fashion. And what's interesting to see in this data set is how this varies by country, how this may not vary by country, as well as to see which type of games are commanding the most from the professional teams that are playing. There's another data set here that's right underneath it that goes a little bit further back. This one goes all the way back to 1998. So this one's interesting to see how the trends in esports have evolved. Although I must say that esports as a phenomenon has really grown in popularity really in the last 5 years. So it's interesting to see how the type of games may have changed. I know that battle royale games have become very popular. Twitch games are also listed on here as well. So you have an opportunity to do maybe some time series analysis on this to see if there is a relationship between the popularity of games on Steam and the popularity of games on Twitch. There are multiple game platforms that are available. So just because something's popular on Steam doesn't necessarily mean that it's popular on Twitch. And a certain game that's popular on Twitch may be a free game that's not even through Steam. So maybe certain platforms are more preferred during different times of the year and for different genres. So that would certainly be interesting. Now, as far as analytical goals, I'm curious for you all to dive into how maybe gaming trends have changed over time. There's quite a bit of historical data available here. So you'll be able to see maybe action and adventure games have dropped off at some point. Maybe battle royale games have surged in popularity. Maybe puzzle games or maybe games that you play with your friends have become more popular. What factors have influenced growth in the industry? COVID has definitely been one of those factors, but perhaps the popularity of esports has contributed to the industry as well. So that could be an interesting analysis that you may be able to uncover, not just with the data sets, but there's some interesting articles that I've included here as well that could certainly point you into the right direction on that. Now, there is one that requires sign-in, so just please note that that's there. Are there geographic patterns? Are certain games more popular in certain locations? I know that in South Korea, for example, StarCraft is very popular there, whereas in other places that may not be the case. Maybe Dota, maybe League of Legends, maybe those games are more popular in certain areas of the world than others. I know that FIFA has popularity in certain areas that's more prevalent than others as well. So definitely an interesting analysis that you can do there. What influences the popularity of a game? Is a certain Twitch streamer a contributing factor for a game becoming more popular than another? If Ninja starts playing a game, does that mean it's going to be at the top of the charts for Steam? Who knows? That's for you all to dive into. The top games on Twitch dataset provides the names of the Twitch streamer. So maybe doing additional analysis on the individual Twitch streamer may help you recognize which factors lead to the popularity of a game. Maybe that person is an excellent internet personality. So things to look at as well. And then the COVID factor. What has changed there? What has rocked the gaming world in the last year? So a lot of interesting data that you all can dive into here. If you're a fan of video games like myself, I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. And I'm sure that you'll be able to use this as an opportunity to learn some new things that maybe you weren't familiar with before. So like Dr. Wishart had mentioned, this is definitely an opportunity for you to showcase your skill set, but this is also an opportunity for you to step outside your comfort zone and to learn something new and, have fun all while doing so. So I'm very much excited to see what you all come up with here. And I'm looking forward to supporting you all in any way that I can. Any questions for me? Right. Okay. Well, if they do come up, let me know. Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
This is really a general question, right? Because every data set has its just very great generic 5 questions that kind of like leads you on. I feel like the answer is yes.
Yes.
But how free are we to do whatever we want, really, right? I know some cases, right, they want a lot of interaction with like COVID. But what if I see my own path, right? If you mentioned streamers, right? What if I go down that rabbit hole and I think that's the rabbit hole that'll take first place? Or
yeah, you're free.
Yeah, or with like the Instacart. Like
ultimately, you're in charge of this. These data sets and prompts are just a baseline, something to get you started. But we try to set it up in a way that each group can take its own angle and go down the path that interests the group that they have passion about. Because in the end, you have to tell a story about this. After all, you'll spend a couple of weeks researching and analyzing, and then you have to get this down to a 10-minute presentation and tell a story. And that's really what in the end differentiates one group from the other, and what the judges base their decision on. It's how compelling is your story, and how convincing as well. And that's what the analytics is about, is to lay that foundation so that they have a sense of you, that they can trust your conclusions and your recommendations, because it's coming from something solid. But it's about being compelling and convincing, and to do that you have to have passion, right? So follow your passion in this.
Yeah. Nicole, is it fair to say then that the questions that we provided are guiding questions and not necessarily restrictions for analysis, that they are able to, pave their own path? That's what
yes.
Okay.
Yes, but I think that maybe what might be the better way to look at this is maybe take a look at the grading rubric. So there's not grading rubric, excuse me, the judging rubric. There's a link on the website that Dr. Simpson posted a link to. There's
criteria.
Yeah. So you can kind of see what the criteria that are going to be used to evaluate you, and keep that in mind as your framework, right?
Yep.
Because you don't want to be, so why I'm saying that is because you don't want to say, oh, well, I'm free to do anything, and then you do something that's too narrow in scope.
Yeah, I just also don't want to do something that's like, I want to answer all 5 questions, and then I want to bring in 5 extra questions that'll help me tell a story, and then I'm telling you the story of Jesus in 10 minutes and rushing through it. So definitely want to make sure I have something concise that I want to show.
Right. I mean, you can start with the 5 questions and then say, well, these are the 3 that out of the 5, these are the 3 that lead to the best insights and the most compelling story that I want to tell, and then just focus on those 3. But you got to be careful. You got to really balance out that you've done sufficient and you have wide enough scope and things are relevant. So take a look at the judging
Yeah, of course.
criteria to help you
Thank
with
you.
that. Yeah. I mean, but I guess I kind of jumped all over that, but Edward and Gladys, are you guys in agreement with that? That they don't have to necessarily answer every single
No,
question,
absolutely.
in a
That was
rote kind of way?
That's actually the idea, and because that's going to be the differentiator among the submissions. Actually, that what you bring, what's
The
new.
angle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in support of that. I think that, you know, if you find something interesting that supports one of those questions there, as long as it's in alignment with the overall scope, then I'm very much on board with that.
And also we are going to be available, like we're going to be holding, you know, during the weeks, I mean, not the weeks, we only have like a couple of weeks actually, but we're going to be available for, you know, mentoring sessions, and depending on the topics and angles that you get, so that you can ask questions and you know, get a little bit of feedback with the obvious, you know, consideration that we know this is a competition and that is your students' work, but we still guide you and mentor you if you need to polish up your you know, your something that you need from the technical standpoint, from the, you know, methodological standpoint. We will be there for you to use our expertise and enrich your submission. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next challenge, which is what's the next challenge?
The other one is the food delivery.
Oh yeah, Dr. Sanchez is actually teaching right now. So let me share the screen again. We can all tackle that one. So yeah, so the next challenge is the food delivery. And this one, you know, that this is actually one of the big themes and the big issues with the COVID, right? That this really had a boom, and we want to kind of understand what happened. So even though in this one we're using a data that is really not that new, like you saw in the e-gaming, we do know that this industry in particular must have been, or it was, as a fact, affected by what happened last year. So we want to learn about that. So we want to see, you know, what trends and products are, you know, are observable, what factors we find there. And in here, more than in any other case, because this one is our data for the COVID workforce impact and the data for e-gaming are both very recent. But this one really is going to benefit a lot from what you can find with your own sources, with your own research. And we understand that it may be a little bit challenging, but that's going to be the beauty of this one, because we know that this is going to be a very, very important research to see what's different, what was different this year from what you see on that data set. So that would be the probably one of the richest the enriching elements that you can bring to the table is to supplement this data with additional data that is relevant to you know, to do an analysis that's more in line with what happened with COVID. So you do have the questions here, you know, the distribution strategy based on what products you see, you know, how the customers, you know, the use of Instacart by customer affects hiring for a company, etc. We particularly were discussing, and Nicole, Edward, you can help me here, that, you know, like because of the nature of the Hispanic community in Miami, how did it play out? Because, you know, a lot of restaurants, they only survived because of this during COVID, and some actually had to close because they were not able to adapt, right? So that's a very interesting angle to bring on this one.
Yeah, and another thing you may want to look at also. So thank you very much, Dr. Simpson, for going over the questions and introducing this topic. I think something that also might be interesting you may want to look into is, there's a question on there about the increased use of Instacart affecting employment or hiring. Maybe you want to look at the Instagram hiring page and see, maybe there is a surge in postings. Maybe extract some data from there to see if maybe they have, a trend, and all of a sudden there's a surge in Miami-Dade County for help and for assistance. Maybe you want to compare that also with maybe Amazon Prime Now, or well, actually Prime Now doesn't do food anymore like that, or Uber Eats or something like that, to see if there's a surge in job postings. There's internetarchive.org, lets you see historical pages of websites. So that website lets you, or Wayback Machine is another website you may want to check out that lets you see old versions of pages. So you can see maybe how things have evolved. Maybe they changed their messaging during the time of COVID. Maybe they changed the urgency of how many drivers they needed. So interesting things that you may want to look at there. And certainly here in South Florida, specifically in Miami-Dade County, there's a lot of mom and pop shops that didn't have the technology and the support that is required to be able to pivot quickly to a delivery method that is facilitated by one of these apps. So maybe you want to see if there's any articles that point you in the right direction of being able to support the answers to some of these questions. And I think this topic is especially interesting because it's going to challenge you all on the research front and help you learn how to find data. If you're able to support any of those arguments with additional data, that would be phenomenal. So we're very interested and excited to see what you all are able to come up with.
Yeah, so here you have other questions that you are that you would address by doing additional research, going beyond the data set that was presented there to see, so the COVID pandemic, what would have happened if this wasn't, the situation last year, the key shift in shopping behavior, etc. And here there's some of the things that I think that you were mentioning actually also.
Yeah, to see the trends. And you see, like, for example, if you just in the number one link, that's statistics you could extract from there, because you may not have access to the actual data set that because the Instacart data set was an amazing data set, but it was posted back in 2017, but it's very rare for a company to make its data available like that. And we searched and searched to see if we could find something more recent, and we couldn't, in terms of an actual data set with rows and columns and millions of rows of data. But you could purchase data, which we can't afford to do. It's like, oh well, you could get this data if you were willing to pay $10,000 or $20,000. We can't do that, but there are people that can do that, and they summarize that data and they write it into articles. So we've given you links to articles that you could go and extract. Unfortunately, not the millions of rows of data that they analyze to come to those conclusions, but you can get the summarized statistics and do something with that. Create your own little data set of summarized statistics. Yeah.
I have a question on some of these data sets with respect to like the current COVID-19 events. So I'm interested in doing the analysis, but what I don't want to make it is like a COVID-19 analysis. So I know like some of it's gonna be like inevitable. Looking at behavior patterns, we're gonna obviously see some differences. But what I don't want to make it is be a full out COVID-19 project where we're just making it all okay. These are customer patterns are changed into COVID, and then I just don't want to make it a full COVID-19 project. You know what I mean? I want to make it more.
I hear you, Pablo. I'm myself kind of
more
real tired of this COVID-19 thing. But
I want to make it more relevant to, if anything. Make it relevant to like today's. If anything, instead of let's replace the word COVID, let's just and then start thinking about it as consumer behavior, changement of patterns, things like that.
Sure. And competitive forces and how our businesses having to change their processes and their business models. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, but the important thing is that I think the influence of the pandemic situation on consumer behavior and companies, approaches to doing things is really a very critical factor. That if you try to establish any relationship or any patterns without considering that, you wouldn't be accurate, right? Because right now it's really it defined the way we behaved last year, whether we like it or not, whether we're tired of it. It really defined. It was a determinant factor for everything.
I know,
So
but I think I don't think he's saying that he wouldn't take that in as a factor. I think he
yeah,
is
Yeah, it
saying that
would
he would like to
be
consider other factors as well, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Not make it a full out COVID-19 analysis, and consider other factors. Because there's with every direct factor, there's also indirect factors.
yeah. And one angle in that
Other anomalies, other
one
you
angle
know.
in that case, because this data is actually a little older, Kevin, you may be at Pablo, you may be at an advantage because you could actually choose to. I mean, it's older data, right? So already it doesn't have the pandemic influence on the data that you have. So I guess when you check your other sources, you could really keep an eye on the date, right? So that your 2020 data obviously will be very influenced by the pandemic. But if you go 2019, you'll be making more recent data. And even if you take 2021, it's already a little bit more, I would say, normal. But yeah, just
Well,
keep,
in Florida.
Yeah,
yeah,
so just to make an example, let's say we find current grocery trends, right? And we see, oh, a ton of people are buying toilet paper. Well, we don't want to just say, oh, it's because of COVID. We want to say, okay, well, why why are people buying toilet paper?
exactly. You got a perfect example right there. If you start analyzing the Instacart data and you see this toilet paper, you don't want to make the wrong conclusion. At some
Yeah.
point that was something that happened with COVID for some reason.
Yeah, like are they buying less food and more toilet paper, or they're buying more food and more toilet paper? I don't know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So you stay away from toilet paper. Okay. Anyway, great. Thank you so much. I think it's great. It's awesome, because also the usability and relevance of the analysis that you do may be actually more if you try not to focus only on that, right? So that would be, valuable beyond the pandemic. So I think, yeah, I understand. Okay, so do we move to the next data set, Towisha? Do I stop my sharing? Do you want to do the student notes?
Okay. Sorry, I tried to find it. There it is. Yes. So student loans. Yes. So obviously this is a big topic right now in the U.S. and with the sort of the push to have the forgiveness of student loans. And so we were just interested to see kind of what you guys, for those who may find us interested, would like to work on this option, what you would come up with in terms of what really is going on in this landscape. Where is it really at right now? And where do you think it's headed? And what recommendations would you make? Because, and there are various data sets. So the first data sets here are government data about the FAFSA. So that's really just the applications with different uh, demographics. Well, but there's demographics and there's other dimensions. And this first one here, I cleaned it up a bit. The second one is still raw, is getting it directly from the website. If you want to do it by demographics, you'd have to clean that one a little bit, but I'd be willing to help. And then I think you need to go beyond just applications. Obviously, you need to kind of get connected with what are the actual disbursements, like what are the actual amounts of loans, and maybe things about defaults, are these loans being paid back or not? And so I've put some data sets here and some articles to set the context. and highlight some of the issues. Just like with the other prompts, um, there's data that you could extract out of the articles and create your own little data set. It wouldn't be detailed data, it'd be summarized data, but it could fill in gaps and connect into the more detailed data sets to complete the story that you might want to tell. Okay. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that one, because you guys can read it and explore it on your own. Oh, well, what I do want to say, that word explore, whenever you are working on a project like this, you probably should plan to spend some amount of time just exploring. So before you rush to some conclusion or rush to the path that you're going to go down, maybe take a couple of days, maybe as much as a week, where you kind of just explore it. You know, use your exploratory techniques, use your, any data set you're looking at, maybe do some box and whisker plots and some histograms, get the feeling of the variables, what are the measures, what are the dimensions, and don't forget, what is the granularity? Always start off, what is the granularity of this data set? What does each row represent? What are the measures? What are the dimensions? Some distribution of these things. Start getting a feel for how things are related. Start doing your basic analytical techniques so that you're digging in there, looking for the nuggets in there, the insights, and then work up from there. Start bringing in your other data, building your picture, working towards telling your story. Okay, so I'll stop speaking and wait to see what questions you guys might have.
And to add to that, also, I think with any of these data sets, it's very important that you all familiarize yourself with the context. So if it's an industry that you're not familiar with, I definitely recommend doing a deep dive on that, so that as you're exploring the data set, it makes sense. Normally, if you would be doing this like in a business context, working somewhere, you'd be leveraging the stakeholders around you for subject matter expertise to be able to, ask them, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? When was this data collected? Who collected it? Through which method was it collected? Thankfully, some of the data set, for most of the data sets, that is available, but know that knowing the business understanding is very important, because if you miss the mark on that, you may draw an incorrect conclusion, and then it's not going to be helpful for anyone that will actually need to implement this. So just a tip, you always want to make sure that you truly understand what it is that you're working with before you start just diving in and maybe drawing incorrect conclusions.
Any questions about the data sets and or the prompts?
So I have a question, just to make sure. I'm interested in working on two different data sets. Does that mean that I have to work on the same team, or I can work on different teams on each data set?
By two data sets, you mean two different topics?
Two different topics, yeah. I'm sorry, two different topics, yeah.
I don't know that it would necessarily be a different team, but I would see it as two different submissions.
Okay.
I think Gladys and Edward, two different, because I would imagine one submission, because I can't see you covering more than one topic in a 10-minute presentation.
Yeah, that would be very challenging. I think it would be, and I see difficulties with these data sets and drawing connections between them. So I think it may be appropriate to have independent submissions for two different topics.
Yeah, absolutely. Each topic is a submission. So if you choose to work on two different ones, that would be two different submissions. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But
I would have to say, Edward, I'd have to say I'd be really impressed if you do that, though, because to me, each one of these is intense. To do two of these would be very intense. But hey, more power to you if you feel you could pull it off, right? But let's do it as two separate submissions.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But it could be the same team, though.
And different team as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually we can probably talk about the timeline also, which is a big constraint in achieving that goal of working on two, because we don't have a lot of time. The semester is coming to an end soon. So we really are wrapping this up before we reach the finals week. So important dates to keep in mind is that the submissions are due on April 11th. So that's only a couple of weeks away. Because we need time for the prejudging, notify you that you are a finalist, which will mean you need to get ready to present to our industry partners for the for the actual competition. And this is going to be online on April 15th. We're still finalizing the specific time because our judges are from our different advisory boards and industry partners that support us in this initiative. Right now, we have confirmed Bank United, FPL. We're still working on other that usually help us. This is actually a great opportunity for you to expose yourself, because it's really these presentations you have to talk to people that are experts in this field, and they usually they give you feedback, because with these entries we then go to the national competition and they will give you feedback. Even though we're not having a national competition this time, they give you feedback, and everybody has told us that that has been very useful for them. And then I don't see any of our pictures. Oh, this is the photo album. Can you click and just show a couple, Nicole, maybe? So by mid-April, before finals, we'll actually be done with the with the entire thing. So this is in the regular term, with no COVID, we do actually make this an event where students get actually a chance to sit with the industry experts and get feedback directly from them, right, about what they did, how they did. We will be doing that through breakout rooms, so maybe, I don't know what
Yes.
will be. Yeah.
Before we did it as a speed networking, but the feedback from the students was that they really did not enjoy that format, because you, by the time you sat down and shook hands and introduced yourself, it was, oh, time to move on to the next. So I don't think we're going to do a speed networking, but we are going to have a networking event where the details will be worked out about how we split up students with the sponsors. um, I think we will still aim to have you talk to more than one company, but just maybe with a longer time period. So it might involve maybe multiple students meeting the sponsor at the same time. Those details are being worked out, but you'll definitely have an opportunity to interact. Actually, the feedback from last time was that the sponsors and the students seemed to enjoy the luncheon the most, because that was where they
Yes.
could really sit and really talk and interact for a long period of time, and that was very enjoyable. But unfortunately this time we're not going to be
We'll
able
do
to do
our
that
best to,
physical, but we're
yeah.
trying to simulate that in some way in the virtual Zoom environment and get that. Now last time Assurant was a company that really tapped in, they really loved this, and you know approached almost all the finalists, as far as I recall, and a lot of people ended up getting internships at Assurance. So we have an advisory board meeting, Atom advisory board meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. And so we'll be talking to, letting them know that yes, this is happening, and we'll see if Assurance is also going to join us this year as well, along with Bank United, FPNL, and Edward. We're also going to try for Miami-Dade waste management services as well, right? Yeah.
Right. Dr. Cousins wanted to reach out, so she's going to reach out. I don't know if we've heard back from them just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
um I don't know if they had a one where the judges are sitting there, but this is really
We just got the names, right? I don't think they did a good job with the photos, really. Well, let me see. Sponsor. No, these are just the companies. Yeah. Yeah, we don't seem to have the photo album from last year. This is from the year prior. With the pictures I'm seeing here are from 2019. So we don't have the 2020. That would have been nice.
I
People
have a
at lunch
couple.
and all of
Let me
that
share. I
stuff.
have one. I have a nice one. I can share it.
Okay. Let me stop sharing.
So this is what it looks like. So this is some of our students sitting, and this is the judges looking at the presentations, right? And I think this is actually apparently a video. And yeah, it is a little bit intimidating. Our students get, that's Dr.
Oh,
Wade.
wait, turn that off.
And this is the team's getting ready to present.
Oh, that was 2019 also.
That's 2019 also.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think you see the format of it.
Yeah.
It's such a great. That's me at the gym. I just put I just put it for you at the thing. This is one of our teams, and you know what?
Oh,
This is some of the actual prep sessions because we that's actually part of the nice thing is that we do have this preparation sessions with the students where they actually get to
yeah.
really get the
Well, I
feedback.
think that's one of the things we need to talk about before the session is over is how do we, moving forward, how do we like interact with you guys to help in any way that we can
Yeah.
for mentoring? What what mechanism? I don't know. Because normally we meet you in the computer lab, and this time it's not going to. Doesn't seem like we're going to be. Well, we could.
Yeah, we
We
could. I
could.
mean, we could if they are available, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think actually I was just teaching this to my one of my classes, and Dr. Wisha was just saying this, and Edward, Professor Edward was also sharing that you gotta start by exploring the data. So that's really important. You guys should just jump into trying to do that, understand the context. Professor Duran also said you need if you're not familiar with that industry, do a little bit of reading so that you can really make do a better job, right? With analyzing because it's just beyond, and that's the beauty of this experiential learning experience opportunity is that you cannot just have a right answer. You really have to place it, and it has to be part of a context. So the more you understand about the industry and what the situation that you're dealing with, the better. The better you'll be able to analyze the data, interpret it correctly. So identifying the what are the rows, what are your what's your data, the granularity, like Professor Wish had said, that's number one. And then also the why, when, how was the data collected. Professor Duran was also emphasizing that. Do we have specific questions to be answered? In this case, yes, right? So we always start with that, and those questions, let those questions guide us and see what are the variables, what's how many rows we have, what sample size we have, and explore it, see how the variables are defined, how they were measured, and understand the univariate distribution, meaning for each column, for each variable in your data, understand what's the range of possible values, measures of central tendency, variability. So this is all part of the exploratory steps. And a lot of times really has been documented that that's actually the most time consuming stage in any project because this is really what allows you to understand it. So you want to get started with that soon so that you have enough time to do that, particularly because we are asking you to go beyond this data that we give you. So that means that you have to have a very clear understanding of this so that you can then bring data that's relevant and that's going to be able to be integrated or connected if you want to do that, right? So because it has the same granularity, or it allows you to connect it if you
Exactly.
can.
Yeah. Mhm.
Then the type of variable, so you go back to your definitions of what's the appropriate way of analyzing variables that are numerical quantitative versus categorical variables, how you summarize them, how you do appropriate charts and dashboards, put them all together. And for this, that's when we come in if you need to do, some extra polishing or just run your analysis by us to make sure that you're not doing something completely inappropriate. We do have, and that I'm gonna let Eduardo share that we do have some sessions that have already happened that AIS has on different tools that can help you with this. And so those are available if you need to. So this is actually the last one. This is not a whole lecture, but then once you have understood the univariate distributions, what are your variables, then you move on to seeing relationship between variables, patterns, what's similar, what you observe. And that actually can guide you into going finding out more information that can support these relationships that you see. Seeing tables where you analyze two variables at a time or three things at a time, and let your guiding questions be the ones that inform your choice for what variables you're analyzing. So, and Dr. Professor Duran was also saying, time series analysis may be appropriate on this gaming sports data. We had the time dimension involved, so we can see what are the trends over time, and etc. I think that's it. So I thought that would be something useful for you to keep in mind, and the technique specific procedures, they come after all of this has happened, right? So different metrics, different procedures are going to be only after we've done the exploration, and determining if we are going to do some inferential analysis. But the purpose is what the guiding thing. Assumptions are important, and in all of this, once you get to this stage, that's what will be there available to make sure that you are applying the procedures correctly. But the first step is exploring.
Yeah, and then you also have to leave for the third part. So let's say the first part is exploration, and the second part is like some pretty deep analysis and integration of data sets and all of that stuff. But then the third part is telling that story, and you want it to look good, right? You want it to not just be good and sound good, but also to your presentation must look good, right? So there's a lot involved. It's not trivial.
And I think they had a session yesterday about telling the story. So this one is also going to be one of the things you want to check when it's time to present your work. Professor Wisher, one question. I think we are asking them to submit a presentation for the April 11th deadline, right? So
I think this year, normally what we do for the pre-judging, the 11th, we just get PowerPoint presentations. But, the faculty have discussed this and felt that we really need a video
yes,
to go along with that, because it's very hard to tell from just PowerPoints.
what is the story?
Yeah, like what. So sometimes we feel that there's some groups that were not put into the finals that probably could have been put into the finals if we had seen a video explanation, and then we could have told them how to fix their PowerPoints or their visuals to be more impressive. But just seeing the PowerPoints by itself, I think, is not rich enough. It's not giving us enough information to make sure that we really are selecting the 6 best groups. Okay, so this time we're going to ask you guys, I'm going to rewrite the instructions for the April 11th submission date, that there must be a video. It doesn't have to be as polished maybe as you're going to do for the final presentation, but it's got to be give us a sense of your story that goes along with whatever analysis you're showing us in a PowerPoint, or if you're showing us a dashboard or whatever it may be.
Mhm. Okay, well, thank you so much. Any closing remarks, Professor Duran, Professor Wisher?
Very excited to see what you all put together. And again, I look forward to mentoring throughout the week. I believe, Dr. Simpson, Dr. Wisher will be sending those dates out soon. Those remain to be determined, correct?
Yes, we were shooting for Thursday, right, Eduardo? Because they already have this time set out for
Perfect.
AIS meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Count me in. I'm available. So
Okay.
I'll be there, and I look forward to helping in any way I can.
Okay.
For the office hours, you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
This
it
Thursday.
seems like the committed time is going to be the Thursday evening, like tonight.
Yes.
But I think it would also, you guys could reach out to any one of us
Yes.
on a one-by-one a group. Your group could reach out to any one of us without necessarily waiting for a Thursday night, and we could set up a Zoom session independently for you.
Yeah, so
Are
the
you
thing
ready?
is that the next sessions, unless we have something that we want to share with everyone, when this consultation about your solution, because this is a competition, it's not going to be open format the way we're doing it. We're going to use breakout rooms for those consultations. But if there is any like general clarification, or if we have to explain something of general interest about a technique or something, those will be open, obviously, like the way we're doing it now.
I have a question.
Yes.
So concerning the impact of COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
according to the gender. When the final database will be available?
Okay, so the database, the data that we uploaded had 400 and something rows of data. And Dr. Simpson, you're saying that you got more responses since then?
I think, yes. I think the last number I saw for mine was 270 plus.
Okay.
So plus the 321, that's gonna be a little more, and we can just close it, Professor.
Okay, so
Let's just close
I
it.
could update it. Let me see. I'll have time to work on that. I could do that tomorrow night, get it ready for Saturday morning. Is that? But listen, you don't need to wait for that. You see, what I always explain about a data set, right? The additional data would just be more rows of data, but you already have the data set in terms of the columns. So you can go ahead and start exploring that data set and seeing what columns of data are there. And then when I refresh it to get, let's say, another 100 rows of data, I will make sure that I don't change any column names, so that if, for example, you already created a report, all you would have to do is connect your report to the new file. And I actually did a video of how to do that in Tableau, but it could be Excel or whatever tool you're using. You would just connect to the new file and everything will continue to work, because I will not mess around with column names or positions of columns. It would just be more rows of data. You just do a refresh, right? So you can start exploring that data set.
Yeah, I did, and I also find a lot of like blank submission. Maybe the person just click on it and didn't fill it out.
Then filter that. You just filter out the nulls if
There was like 85 of those. So, and also there was like demographics that were not completed. So we have a lot of like blank for the gender variable. And also I would like to, is it possible to have access to the methodology so I can see what you mean by certain answers? For example, for gender, you put male, female, order. So that order, I mean,
other was just because of the culture in today's world where there's
but, but
someone help me here. One of you young people jump in
let's
on
say
that,
you
please.
define order as, okay, I don't want to say it's, it's different than
you have people who don't identify as male or female.
Non-binary distinctions, yeah.
Yeah, and
We
if
got a
you
lot
go
of
with
order.
here's my point. If you define order as I don't know or I don't want to share this, right? It's different than being saying I'm transgender or any biracial thing.
Okay, but for us that doesn't matter. What I mean is, we did not get into are they transgender or are they non-binary or any of that. It's just, are you male? Are you female? If you don't consider yourself one of those, or you don't want to answer the question, I think there were very few though. When I looked at that, I think percentage wise, I think most were filled in as either male or female. But yeah, I don't overcomplicate that one. And in terms of the null values and stuff like that, that's what happens with real world data. Okay, so that's a real data set. That's not made up data. All right. And so you're going to have to clean it. You're going to have to,
Absolutely.
out the
I love
nulls.
that line, Professor Wisha. We omitted that on my slides. The first thing we do actually before we even start exploring is we clean the data. And cleaning means you make decisions about this and you exclude those rows and you just explain that you did it.
But don't just throw away all the rows. I mean, just set up a filter for null. You can filter out nulls, but just so someone might have not filled in for a given column, but they might have filled in for another column. So don't just throw away rows of data willy-nilly, right? But you can definitely filter out nulls.
Okay. Remember, here we're gonna base our analysis on
time, and we can follow up this. Guy, actually, we can, if you wanna discuss this further. So Professor Wisha, let's try to do, I don't know if you, after our meeting tomorrow, you wanna stay for a while and we can talk about if we can clean that a little bit more to post it as soon as possible and just, get that. You can, I mean, data. So
yeah,
I think,
but I'm not going to remove the nulls. Okay. I'm going to leave that to the students to do that.
That's part of the exploration. I mean, that's
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And your
Actually,
professors.
guys, I'm going to be sending AIS, I'm going to be asking AIS to help me promote an event that we have next week, which is for high schools, where we're going to be just talking about this career opportunities in this area. So please help me pass on the information to any young people that you know that may be interested in learning about what we do in these fields and spark their interest. Okay, so please stay tuned for more information about that.
Okay. Gladys, can you stay